Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, I want to have a look at a whole bunch of new supporters, which are going to be coming out in Champion Road. Now, Champion Road is a reprint set, and this makes all of these trainers, supporters, etc. really easy to translate, because they've all got the exact same translation as they had before. We've already looked at cards like TV Reporter, which had the same translation as before, and Apricorn Maker, which had the same translation as before. Now we're going to be looking at free supporter cards, all of which have the same translation as before. So, I mean, nominally, let's say big shout out to Antoine Boulay here for helping us just confirm this. But really, we don't need translators. All we need to do is go and look up what these cards used to do, and then we know what they do nowadays. Now, what is especially important about this is that we expect a rotation in September. And in that rotation, we expect to lose N, and we expect to lose Professor Sycamore. Now, along with Cynthia, they are the three big supporter cards we have at the moment. They are our consistency cards. They're what we use to run our decks. So you know what? We need some replacements. We've got Cynthia. Cynthia is a great card, but we need more. And honestly, the most exciting card of all of these coming out is Copycat. Copycat may well be one of the most important cards to come from Champion Road, because it's good shuffle draw support. Now, Copycat does what Copycat has always done. You shuffle your hand into your deck, and you draw a number of cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand. Now, this leads for some very good fun in trying to screw over your opponent who's trying to use a copycat. So, for instance, if you've got something like a Cynthia in hand, you try and get down to a one-card hand with just a Cynthia, so your opponent cannot play a copycat because, well, I suppose they can, but they're only getting one card in hand, whereas you get it the following turn. But that leads to people benching Pokemon they'd rather not bench, and attaching energy they'd rather not attach. I mean, maybe they attach a double colourless energy to try and give you one fewer card from Copycat. Brilliant. You can use an enhanced hammer to get rid of it. So it is not that easy. You can't just play every card in your hand. You can be punished for that. But it does lead to some interesting plays. And put simply, if we stay with the card pool we've got, or that we know we're getting, we've got Cynthia. Cynthia's important. Cynthia's going to be a 4 of in every deck next format. But with N and Professor Sycamore going, Copycat is going to become a hugely, widely played card. So we are going to see these interactions of people trying to lower their hand size to screw over people who are playing Copycat. As for Copycat itself, it is a great card, because the vast majority of the time your opponent isn't going to be able to get down to a single card in hand. You're likely to be playing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards when you play a Copycat. It could be brilliant. I mean, let's say your opponent uses a Dramper to use Big Wheel GX as their GX attack for the turn. Brilliant! Because then you can use a Copycat and get 10 cards as well. But now your opponent's got 10 cards from using their one and only GX attack for the turn, while putting up a 2-prize GX which is weak to stuff like Buzzwole. And you've got your 10 cards by playing your supporter card for the turn. You win that exchange, ladies and gentlemen. You absolutely win that exchange. And Copycat's good for some more reasons. Now, Copycat was quite big in the Heart Gold Soul Silver era, because of cards like Yanmega Prime. Yanmega Prime attacked for free, as long as you could match the number of cards in hand with your opponent. So clearly in a Yanmega deck, Copycat was absolutely brilliant, because Copycat would guarantee you'd have the same number of cards in hand as your opponent, and you would be up and rolling. Put very simply, Copycat is an amazing card. It's going to see a huge amount of play, and at least initially, Copycat's a 5 WOSSY card. And I don't feel particularly bad about saying that. In a format where we've got Professor Sycamore and Cynthia, maybe Copycat's a 1 or 2 of in some decks, especially as you can play Tapu Lele to grab it when you want it, so you don't need to rely on it. But in a format where we've got Cynthia, and that's really the only good draw supporter, yes, we're still going to have Judge, but Judge only gets you 4 cards. Judge is better as disruption than it really is as a draw supporter card. In this context, Copycat is really, really good, and I expected to see a huge amount of play. We're also getting a reprint of Underground Expedition. Now, I know the artwork looks weird on Underground Expedition. It doesn't look like the last print we had in Rising Rivals, because they've actually gone and used the art from Skyridge, which, incidentally, I don't know, maybe it's better. I don't have a strong opinion either way, to be honest. But it's a useful card. You look at the bottom 4 cards of your deck, put 2 of them in your hand, and put the rest of them on the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, weirdly enough, if you're playing the old Fossil rules, using things like Old Amber Aerodactyl, you need to look at the bottom 7 cards of your deck. If you find an Aerodactyl there, you can put it on your bench as a basic Pokemon. Underground Expedition's actually brilliant, because if you've got an Old Amber Aerodactyl in hand, you can play Underground Expedition, and if you hit an Aerodactyl, put it on the bottom of your deck, you guarantee you hit it. As it is at the moment, we're using Unidentified Fossil, which has changed the Fossil rules, but heads up on the old Fossil rules there, that's pretty gosh darned important. Now, this actually reminds me a little bit of Misty's Determination. Now, Misty's Determination got you 1 of the top 8 cards, rather than 2 of the top 4 cards, and discarded a card from your hand. But I quite like this. But let's be really clear. This is not a Professor Sycamore or N replacement like Copycat can be. That's not what this card does, ladies and gentlemen. What this card does is it gives you extra draw for awkward cards. So we're leaving Skylar out of the format. Skylar's leaving the format. Skylar's gone. Little bit sad. So we don't have a great way to search for something like Rare Candy. Maybe you use this to try and hit a Rare Candy. We don't have great Special Energy search at the moment. Maybe you use this to try and hit a double colourless energy. The thing is, I'm not a huge fan of this, because the chances are you may well not have the card you want on the top 4 cards of your deck. I mean, take a card like Max Elixir. Max Elixir lets you look at the top 6 cards of your deck, and if you find a basic energy, you attach it to a benched basic Pokemon. Basic energy we generally play more of than any other card in our deck, and a lot of the time we won't hit one in the top 6 cards of our deck. So Underground Expedition will hit us a couple of cards, but will it hit us the main cards? I don't particularly know. I don't think you're going to get the specific cards you want. Now, another card we could talk about here is Sage's Training. Sage's Training looked at the top 5 cards, 2 in your hand, 3 in your discard. Sage's Training actually saw quite a lot of play, but then again, Sage's Training was also used to discard cards. I think Underground Expedition is going to see some play, at least initially, while our supporter options are lower than we would otherwise like. And getting 2 cards is good. I just don't think you're always going to hit the cards you want with this. I think there's going to be some very disappointed turns when you play this. I'm still giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric, because I do expect it to see a fair amount of play, especially when we got limited options, but I don't think it's an amazing card, and I don't think it's going to see that much play. Most of the time, I'd rather play cards like Copycat or Cynthia. And finally, Bill's Maintenance. I am not a fan of Bill's Maintenance, ladies and gentlemen. It's a card which has come around a fair few times in the past. It's not a particularly new card. We've seen it a couple of times. And what Bill's Maintenance does, it allows you to shuffle 1 card from your hand into your deck and then draw 3 cards. I mean, in terms of pure draw here, it's how. That's it. You draw 3 cards. That is not particularly exciting. Nobody should get particularly excited about drawing 3 cards. Drawing 3 cards is not great. As for putting a card from your hand into your deck, I remain unconvinced. I mean, maybe it's going to allow you to draw more cards from something like Oranguru after you play Bill. Maybe. Maybe you can put a card back into your deck that you're not going to need now, but you might need later on. Let's say something like an Energy Recycler. If you've already got loads of energy in your deck and none in your discard, you can kind of stash it for later. I mean, in this set, we're also getting TV Reporter. I did a video about that. I'll pop a link in the description, where you drew 3 cards, then discarded 1. And most of the time, discarding a card is going to be better, because at least you can discard a water energy so that you can then play an Aqua Patch. for argument's sake. Or you can discard a Pokemon so that you can then search it out from the discard using Rescue Stretcher in later turns. I'm just not a fan of Bill's Maintenance. I don't think it's a particularly good card. And, I mean, the shuffling one card back into your deck could be useful. It could. You know, maybe you shuffle an energy back into your deck, so you then have more chance of drawing an energy off Max Elixir, although that should rotate about a month after this comes out in Champion Road. I'm not saying it's a useless card, but I am saying we've got other cards that draw free, and most of the time, how just doing a straight free would be better, or TV Reporter discarding a card which could help in some decks would be better. As it is, I'm not a fan of Bill's Maintenance. I'm giving it 2 Wassies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are some new supporters coming out in Champion Road. I think Copycat is an absolutely crucial card. I think the other two could have their uses, but are going to be largely underwhelming. But if you disagree with me, great news, there's a comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, head yourself over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. And do check out my video game/Dragon Ball Super channel, Wassie Plays. We are very close to 1,000 subs. I'll be delighted when we hit it. You can help me out. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.